Okay, you guys ready? You know, I was hoping for a little bit more enthusiasm here, okay? Because I'm pretty darn excited about this plan, okay? Because we're ready, we're a team, and we're organized. And we've covered all the bases. It's locked. It's locked.
Remember when network executives thought throwing money at weird concepts was a foolproof strategy? 1985 was peak "what if we put superheroes in an ice cream truck" kind of thinking. Some ideas worked. Golden Girls premiered that year and became legendary, but most burned bright for about 5 minutes, then disappeared faster than new Coke. Today we're counting down 10 TV disasters from 1985 that had everything going for them. Big budgets, recognizable faces, and premises so bonkers they almost had to work. Now, before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's get into it with number 10, Misfits of Science, NBC. What do you get when you mix Ghostbusters-style humor with X-Men-ish superpowers? A quirky team of crime-fighting oddballs riding around in an ice cream truck because apparently someone thought, let's make superheroes but with soft serve. The result is one cult classic flop that makes more sense than half the stuff Marvel's doing today. I know, Thunderbolts was actually good. I know someone's going to bring that up in the comments, but let's get back to Misfits here. Meet Dr. Billy Hayes, played by Dean Paul Martin. Yes, Dean Martin's son, proving that coolness might actually be genetic, but TV success definitely isn't. He was the leader of a ragtag crew of anomalies that included a 7-foot-tall genius who could shrink to doll size, played by Kevin Peter Hall, because nothing says practical superhero like a guy who goes from pro basketball player to action figure.
There's a door button inside.
Yeah? So who's gonna push it?
I am.
I told you about that, right?
There was Johnny B, an electrified rock star, played by Mark Thomas Miller, who could shoot lightning and probably single-handedly kept the show's insurance costs sky high. And rounding out this magnificent disaster, a teenage telekinetic played by a very young Courteney Cox, years before she'd mastered the art of sarcasm on Friends. Their mission is to stop bad guys, avoid electrocution, and somehow keep Iceman from melting in the back of their... Wait, no, he was actually stored in a lab freezer, but honestly, the ice cream truck would have been funnier. This was NBC's attempt to capitalize on the Ghostbusters craze. They wanted their own wacky super team for Friday nights, right when Miami Vice was making cops look cool and the A-Team was teaching kids that explosions never actually hurt anyone. Instead of giving Misfits a prime slot or real marketing muscle, they tossed it into the dreaded Friday death slot against juggernauts like Dallas, because nothing says we believe in the show quite like scheduling it opposite J.R. Ewing. The show had heart, chaos, and an absolutely bonkers energy that made it genuinely fun to watch, if you could find it on Friday nights. It even launched the career of Heroes creator Tim Kring, who wrote one of his very first episodes here, proving that sometimes the best training for creating a hit superhero show was surviving a superhero flop first. But NBC barely promoted it, buried it in that terrible time slot, and canceled it after 15 episodes, leaving one episode unaired in the US because apparently even their failures needed to be incomplete. Cox later credited Misfits as the role that taught her how to survive and shine in a crowded ensemble cast, which probably came in handy when she had to hold her own against 5 other friends. Mark Thomas Miller stayed active in TV and theater, always proud of his electrifying cult following. See what we did there? Kevin Peter Hall went on to play the Predator before his untimely death in 1991, and Dean Paul Martin died in a military jet crash just 1 year after the show wrapped. Today, Misfits has a serious cult following, and honestly, if there's any justice in this world, someone's going to reboot it properly. Just maybe skip the ice cream truck this time. Number 9, Sarah, NBC. Sarah was a sitcom starring Geena Davis as Sarah McKenna, a spunky San Francisco lawyer fresh out of law school who's balancing work, friends, and single life. Basically, every 1980s I'm an independent woman sitcom rolled into one perfectly feathered package.
Why is there a nose print on his window? When I'm sad, I press my face up against the glass in the hope of getting sympathy from strangers.
Yes, it's the law. It's not a pet shop.
The cast had serious before they were famous power. Alfre Woodard as Sarah's best friend, Bill Maher as a sleazy lawyer colleague, because apparently even then people saw him as naturally annoying, and Bronson Pinchot as Dennis, one of TV's earliest regular gay characters, years before he'd perfect the art of being bulky on Perfect Strangers.
Hi. Hi. Look at the smile on Sarah's face. Guess what great thing happened to her today?
You met a man and he's not gay.
No.
You met a man and he is gay, and you're bringing him here to meet me?
No.
Then I have no idea why you're smiling.
Even little Matthew Lawrence showed up as a neighbor's son, probably practicing for his future teen heartthrob career. With that ensemble, you'd think Sarah could soar. Instead, it crashed harder than your VCR when it tried to eat the tape halfway through a movie night. Why? Well, chalk it up to brutal scheduling and the Dynasty death machine. NBC slotted Sarah on Wednesday nights directly against ABC's Dynasty, which in 1985 was the most popular show in America. Unsurprisingly, viewers chose oil tycoons and catfights over Geena Davis's legal hijinks because, let's be honest, when Dynasty was serving up Alexis Carrington throwing people into lily ponds, what chance did workplace comedy have? Sarah struggled to attract an audience and was canceled after just 13 episodes, which aired between January and May of 1985. NBC even tried re-airing Sarah in the summer of 1988, hoping to cash in on Geena Davis's newfound fame from Beetlejuice, but the show remained firmly forgotten. It was like trying to revive a conversation 3 years after everyone had moved on. Number 8. Lady Blue, ABC. Meet Detective Katie Mahoney. She'll shoot you, blow up your car, and return to her pedicure, all before her coffee break. Lady Blue was a gritty police drama that flipped the script on the typical 80s cop show. Instead of a Dirty Harry, we got a Dirty Harriet, with better hair and significantly more property damage. Red-haired actress Jamie Rose starred as Chicago cop Katie Mahoney, and the series kicked off with an over-the-top pilot movie that made Rambo look like a meditation retreat. Mahoney foiled a bank robbery, then calmly returned to her pedicure like she just ordered a latte. Lady Blue became infamous as the most violent show on TV in 1985. The pilot alone racked up over a dozen on-screen deaths, which was impressive by 1980 standards, and let's be honest, the 80s weren't exactly known for their restraint. The National Coalition on TV Violence blasted Lady Blue for its bloodshed, and ABC got nervous faster than a tourist in Times Square.
Behind us! Hang on!
After airing only 4 episodes on Thursday nights, ABC yanked Lady Blue off the schedule for a month and moved it to a later slot on Saturday, because apparently nothing says we're fixing the show like hiding it after everyone's going to bed. Even with the shuffle, the controversy didn't die down, and neither did the body count. By January of 1986, after 13 episodes and countless spent shell casings, Lady Blue was canceled due to low ratings and high complaints from viewers who apparently preferred their violence with more charm and fewer actual consequences. Yet the show wasn't without its cool factors. A young Johnny Depp guest starred in one episode as a villain's brother in one of his very first television roles, because even future Pirates of the Caribbean had to start somewhere, and that somewhere was apparently getting shot at by Jamie Rose. Some television scholars suggest Lady Blue might have suffered from being ahead of its time. Audiences weren't ready for a female action hero who was as violent as the guys, and the backlash may have had a sexist tinge. Number 7. Stir Crazy, CBS. Stir Crazy was a sitcom adaptation of the 1980 Gene Wilder-Richard Pryor movie, which had been a box office smash and proved that prison comedy could work if you had 2 of the funniest people alive.
Are you serious? Huh?
You know that I'm serious. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I don't like about this city.
You're a saint. That's what.
Oh, Harry, why you make fun of me?
The film's premise is that 2 innocent guys get jailed for a crime they didn't commit, then hatch a wacky escape plan, which worked brilliantly with Wilder and Pryor's chemistry.
2 escaped convicts wanted for murder, a crime they did not commit.
But on TV, it was like watching a cover band try to recreate the Beatles' magic using kazoos and a broken drum kit. CBS's Stir Crazy had Larry Riley and Joseph Guzaldo as the misfit buddies Harry and Skip, who bust out of prison and go on the run to prove their innocence, because apparently no one at CBS asked the obvious question, what made Wilder and Pryor funny in the first place? Chasing them was a ruthless prison guard named Captain Betty, played by Jeannie Wilson. Basically a caricatured antagonist who felt like she wandered in from a different, much worse show. The TV show debuted in September of 1985 and tanked immediately like a lead balloon filled with unfunny scripts. After just 1 month, CBS yanked it off the fall schedule due to dismal ratings. They tried to burn off a few more episodes in a new time slot around December, but nothing could save it. Not even the power of holiday goodwill. The last episode aired on January 7th of 1986, after which Stir Crazy was permanently canceled. In total, only 8 episodes ever aired, with 1 more unaired sitting on a shelf like a monument to bad decision making. Ironically, the theme song was Stir It Up by Patti LaBelle, but the show itself couldn't stir up any audience interest beyond mild confusion. Number 6, Mary, CBS. Mary was meant to be the big TV comeback of the legendary Mary Tyler Moore, who hadn't headlined a series in several years, and let's be honest, after the Mary Tyler Moore show, anything was going to feel like a step backward. In this single-season sitcom, Moore played Mary Brenner, a 40-something divorcee who loses her high-profile job at a fashion magazine and ends up writing a consumer help column for a second-rate Chicago tabloid. The setup was solid. Workplace comedy meets midlife crisis, with the charm of Mary Tyler Moore navigating the gritty world of local journalism.
I'm not going to New York. Why not? There's nothing keeping you here. You're divorced, no children. This is where I live. I'm from Chicago. I know Chicago. My friends, my home, the Cubs. Everything that means anything to me is in this town.
The supporting cast was actually pretty stellar, including a cynical chain-smoking columnist played by Katie Sagal, years before she'd perfect the art on being Peg Bundy. A pretentious theater critic played by John Astin. Also featured was James Ferrantino as Mary's womanizing editor and semi-love interest, bringing all the charm of a used car salesman in a 3-piece suit.
Just a death threat.
A death threat? Well, actually, it's a death treat. This guy is not much of a speller.
Where's it from?
Zoltar the Inhalator.
I think he means Zoltar the Annihilator.
This guy's got problems.
What's going on?
Well, Frank just received a death threat.
Mary premiered in December of 1985. After 10 episodes, CBS pulled Mary off the air in February of 1986 to retool things, because nothing says we believe in this show quite like stopping mid-season for emergency surgery. They tinkered with the formula, dropped a couple of characters, focused more on workplace stories, and brought Mary back in a new time slot, Tuesdays in March. But the ratings didn't improve, probably because viewers had already moved on to something shinier and less complicated. Despite a few positive reviews and Moore's undeniable charm, Mary just couldn't recapture the old MTM magic. CBS canceled Mary after 13 episodes, with the final episode airing April 8th of 1986. Fun fact, the fictional paper was originally called the Chicago Post until a real Chicago politician who owned a paper by that name objected, so they changed it to the Eagle. That name change didn't bring any luck though, because apparently even fictional newspapers couldn't escape the curse of bad timing and network indifference. Alright, we're halfway through this disaster parade, and trust me, it only gets more spectacular from here. If you're enjoying this trip back to 1985's weirdest TV experiments, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep digging up the shows everyone else forgot, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's still ahead on this list. Number 5, McGruder and Loud, ABC. ABC thought they had a surefire hit, a cop drama with romance from Aaron Spelling launching after the Super Bowl. Instead, they got a loud flop that proved even the king of TV glamour could strike out when the concept was fundamentally flawed.
Did you read the sports page yesterday about that East German sprinter who defected? He got a red carpet welcome, an agent, and a management contract in about 2 hours.
Come on, Jen, that's different.
The show was about 2 Los Angeles police detectives, Malcolm McGruder, John Getz, and Jenny Loud, played by Catherine Harrold, who secretly get married even though their department forbids office romances. So, this husband and wife cop duo had to solve crimes by day and sneak through a hidden door behind a grandfather clock because subtlety was apparently not in the budget to be together at night without their boss finding out.
Positive identification, 81 Silver Dodson, license 1 CGG 448, Heading west on Broadhurst. Request assistance.
ABC was so high on this concept, they gave McGruder and Loud the post-Super Bowl time slot in January of 1985, promoting the heck out of it during Super Bowl 19, right when America was watching the 49ers crush the Dolphins and probably wondering why they were seeing ads for yet another cop show. The premiere scored massive ratings thanks to that lead-in. Once the Super Bowl glow faded, so did the audience. The show's early reviews were brutal, and viewers quickly checked out like hotel guests who discovered bedbugs. Over the next few weeks, ratings plunged. By the second week, McGruder and Loud fell out of the top 30, and it kept sinking like the Titanic. ABC didn't help matters by constantly shuffling the time slot. The show bounced around more than a pinball before landing on Monday at 10 p.m. By April of 1985, barely 3 months after launch, ABC pulled the plug. Only 14 episodes aired, and McGruder and Loud ranked a mediocre 36th out of 77 shows that season despite its big launch. This flop was a rare misfire for Aaron Spelling, who was otherwise dominating 80s TV with its hits like Dynasty, Hotel, and TJ Hooker, proving that even the master of trashy entertainment could stumble when the premise was too ridiculous for its own good. In the end, McGruder and Loud is remembered, if at all, as a textbook example that a Super Bowl debut can only take you so far. You can lead millions of viewers to your show once, but you can't make them stick around if the show feels like it was written by a committee of people who'd never seen actual police work or human relationships. Number 4, Hail to the Chief, ABC. Years before anyone heard of President Josiah Bartlett or Selena Meyer, TV gave us President Patty Duke in a short satirical experiment that left office almost as quickly as it began.
What's this?
The Last Supper?
Randy.
Come on. I happen to know for a fact you haven't had Haagen-Dazs in 3.5 years.
Oh. Double stuffed Oreos.
With milk.
Oh, look at all that cholesterol.
Hail to the Chief was an over-the-top political sitcom starring Patty Duke as Julia Mansfield, the first female president of the United States, which sounds progressive until you realize it was basically The West Wing written by people who thought politics was just one big punchline. President Mansfield had to juggle international crises, scheming rivals, a doofus first gentleman played by Ted Bessel, because apparently even fictional female presidents couldn't escape having incompetent husbands, rebellious kids, a Bible-thumping televangelist antagonist, and even a Soviet spy or two. The show also featured one of TV's few recurring gay characters of the era, Joel Brooks as a Secret Service agent, keeping with its equal opportunity offender ambition, which was actually pretty progressive for 1985, even if the execution felt like it was written by people who'd never met an actual gay person. Hail to the Chief premiered in April of 1985 with a lot of hype. Its first episode actually won its time slot with a strong 32 share because people were curious to see a woman president on TV, even if it was just to make fun of the concept. However, the ratings plummeted week by week, and by the 4th episode, it was like a political campaign that peaked too early and had nowhere to go but down. Audiences seemed to tune out once their initial shock value wore off.
Oliver, I did not set out to be president, but when the president can't fulfill his term, the vice president becomes president, so I'm president.
Madam President, I'm sorry.
Yes, Randy, come in.
Perhaps the show's brand of humor, very broad and bawdy, didn't match mid-80s tastes, or maybe people just didn't find this White House farce funny when the real White House was providing enough comedy material of its own. After only 7 episodes, ABC canceled Hail to the Chief in May of 1985. The network did air reruns into July, but there was no second term on the horizon for Julia Mansfield. She'd been voted out faster than a scandal-plagued incumbent. Today, it remains a forgotten curio, a show where a female U.S. president existed in 1985, if only to deliver punchlines about world domination and marital mishaps. As a footnote, at least Patty Duke got to make TV history, albeit on a short-lived, historically irrelevant show that most people forgot between the next election cycle. Number 3, Otherworld, CBS. A family road trip through a parallel dimension. It sounds like a sci-fi geek's dream, but in 1985, it became a primetime oddity that vanished faster than the family's hopes of getting home. Otherworld was a sci-fi adventure series that followed the Sterling family, dad, mom, and 3 kids who toured Egypt's Great Pyramid during a once-in-10,000-years planetary alignment and get transported to an alternate planet called Tel, because apparently Other Earth was too obvious. The Sterlings, now fugitives in a strange land, wandered from zone to zone each episode trying to find their way home while being pursued by the relentless Commander Kroll, a jackbooted enforcer played by none other than Jonathan Banks, years before he'd perfect the art of being menacing as Mike Airman Trout on Breaking Bad.
Commander, power is out all over the province. Everything is shutting down.
On my life, I swear they will be mine.
If that premise sounds kind of awesome, well, for some of us it was. The show was like Lost in Space meets Quantum Leap, but with the budget of a high school theater production. The Sterlings encountered a new weird society each week. Sometimes it was dystopian, sometimes it was utopian, and it was always slightly ridiculous, while trying to avoid Kroll and his stormtroopers.
You have disrupted the spiritual equilibrium of this whole province, and the people of Centrex will not stand for it.
They will too. They bought over 700,000 copies. That's massive repo tonnage.
But mainstream audiences didn't latch on. After the initial 8 episodes, the 2-hour pilot was split into 2 parts, making up the first and 5th episodes. CBS decided not to order more, effectively stranding the Sterling family in television limbo forever. Rumors swirled for years among fans that there were 5 lost episodes that were unaired, but the creator confirmed that only 8 were ever produced. No secret stash of episodes exists, which is probably for the best since the show ended without a real conclusion anyway. The concept was admittedly ahead of its time. Otherworld remains a curious footnote in 80s television, a show that had big ideas, small budgets, and the misfortune of airing when America wanted its entertainment simple and its families firmly planted on Earth. Number 2, Charlie and Company, CBS. CBS looked at The Cosby Show's ratings dominance and thought, we need our own successful black family sitcom. So they assembled a dream team. Flip Wilson as the dad, Gladys Knight as the mom, and a cast of future stars. The result was a show that proved you can't just copy someone else's homework and expect to get the same grade. Charlie and Company starred Flip Wilson as Charles Charlie Richmond, a middle-class highway employee juggling work and family life on Chicago's South Side. This was meant to be Wilson's big comeback after the Flip Wilson show made him a household name in the 70s.
I know you, honey. Watch out, honey, because Geraldine Jones is making her debut, honey.
His TV wife Diana was played by none other than Gladys Knight. Yes, that Gladys Knight of the Pips, who also performed the sitcom's theme song titled Family.
Picnics in the park, kids in the car, Sunday's family day, get away.
Because apparently CBS thought if we're going to fail, let's at least have amazing music.
Got a little time to fool around with your hubby?
Maybe later.
What if I'm dead later?
I'll cry and grieve and call the insurance company.
But here's where it gets interesting for Gen X nostalgia. The Richmond kids were played by actors who'd become much more famous later. 16-year-old Junior was played by Christoph St. John, who'd later spend decades on The Young and the Restless. 15-year-old Lauren was Fran Robinson, and 9-year-old Robert was played by a young Jaleel White, years before he'd become Steve Urkel and accidentally take over Family Matters. That's right, before Did I Do That? There was Charlie and Company, where future Urkel was just a regular sitcom kid without suspenders or nasally catchphrases. Della Reese even joined mid-season as Aunt Rachel, adding more star power to what was already a surprisingly stacked cast for a show nobody remembers. The premise was solid. A working-class black family dealing with real issues positioned as more relatable than the upscale Huxtables. While the Cosbys were living in their Brooklyn Heights brownstone with a doctor dad and lawyer mom, the Richmonds were middle-class folks dealing with actual middle-class problems. But CBS's timing was terrible. This was 1985 after all, when The Cosby Show was absolutely dominating Thursday nights, and America wasn't really looking for an alternative. It was like opening a burger joint next to McDonald's during the height of Big Mac mania. Despite the pedigree of its cast and the relatability of its premise, Charlie and Company lasted only 1 season.
She may not know it, but she is on the verge of being banished even as we speak.
18 episodes aired between September 1985 and May of 1986, with 1 episode left unaired, because apparently even CBS didn't think it was worth finishing the order. The show became a footnote in TV history, remembered mainly for launching Jaleel White's career and proving that star power alone can't overcome bad scheduling and audience indifference. Number 1, Street Hawk, ABC. Street Hawk was Universal Television's big swing in the mid-'80s super vehicle craze, back when every network was convinced America wanted more crime-fighting machines with lasers, explosions, and dramatic synth music. It premiered on ABC on January 4th, 1985, and despite the high-tech motorcycle, flashy stunts, and a Tangerine Dream theme song, the show only lasted 13 episodes and a feature-length pilot before ABC pulled the plug on May 16th of 1985. The series followed Jesse Mack, played by Rex Smith, a former motorcycle cop turned police PR officer by day and masked vigilante by night.
Who the hell wants to know? Get away from me! Answer me.
After wrecking his knee in an off-duty shootout, Jesse was recruited by federal agent Norman Tuttle, played by Joe Rigobudo, who later became better known on Murphy Brown, to test a top-secret government project. Tuttle gave Jesse the Street Hawk, an experimental all-terrain attack motorcycle that could hit speeds up to 300 miles per hour and came loaded with weapons, sensors, and a hyperthrust button. The main cast also included Jeannie Wilson as Officer Rachel Adams and Richard Venture as Captain Leo Altobelli, his perpetually exasperated boss who treated Street Hawk like a PR disaster on wheels. The show also featured some future stars before they hit it big. George Clooney appeared in an early guest role, Dennis Franz showed up years before NYPD Blue, and Joanna Kearns stopped by right before becoming TV mom royalty on Growing Pains. And yes, Christopher Lloyd made an appearance in the pilot episode months before Back to the Future made him Doc Brown. Of course, the real star was the bike itself, and it was a diva. Built from modified Honda motorcycles, it looked incredible on screen. It was sleek, futuristic, and just high-tech enough to make Knight Rider's kit a little bit jealous. But behind the scenes, the fiberglass panels popped off mid-jump, engines overheated, and the crew was constantly repairing and swapping bikes to keep filming on schedule. While fan lore says 6 identical Street Hawk bikes were kept on standby, production stories vary. So let's just say there were enough backup bikes to prove the thing wasn't exactly bulletproof. Oh, and speaking of chaos, the behind-the-scenes drama was almost more explosive than what made it to air. Street Hawk was originally supposed to debut in the fall of 1984 on Monday nights, but ABC pushed it to mid-season and dropped it into a brutal Friday night death slot against tough competition. Rookie executive producers Paul M. Bellis and Robert Walterstorff struggled to manage a show this ambitious, which led to delays, costly stunts, and plenty of on-set frustration. In the end, Street Hawk just couldn't compete with Knight Rider and Airwolf, 2 shows with bigger budgets, bigger stars, and built-in audiences. Street Hawk eventually developed a cult following, especially overseas, and today, it lives on in nostalgia playlists, fan forums, and toy collections. And there you have it, 10 forgotten TV shows from 1985 that crashed and burned. Which of these do you actually remember? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more nostalgic TV deep dives into the shows that networks wish they could erase from history. Until next time, this is Remember When.